Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. First and foremost, we'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Hashem Mashiach Gomalak Yahawashi. That is to say, Yahweh being named the Heavenly Father, who the world will call God, and Yahawashi being named his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Alright, this is Brother Kasadia from WFI Jersey, Philly. Right, we want to touch on tonight, right, is Micah the 5th chapter, man. The time of us being back in our land, Yahawashi slaughtering the heathen, right, and Yasha being rejoicing again in our own homeland, man. Right now these devils in our land, right, we got all these different nations going to war in our land, and soon it's going to continue to happen, pursuing the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter. Right, what we want to touch on, man, like I said, it's the book of Micah, the 5th chapter. So we're going to hop right into it. Shalom to everybody that's tuning in. Right, this is Micah chapter 5 and verse 1. It says, "Now gather thyself and troops, O daughter of troops. He had laid siege against us. They shall smite the judge of Israel with a rod upon the cheek." Right, so what this is going into is, now on twofold. One, you could kind of see this through the spirit of when the king Zedekiah was smitten by the Babylonians. Right, but on another fold, what this truly is going into is them coming through and smiting our true judge. Right, our judge, the Lord Yahawashi. Let's get a precept. Right, so Yahawashi is that true judge for the nation of Israel. Right, let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 16. Right, Isaiah chapter 16, and I'm going to start at verse 5. Right, this is Isaiah 16 and 5. "And in mercy shall the throne be established, and he shall sit upon it in truth in the tabernacle of David, judging and seeking judgment and hasting righteousness." Right, so this is going to Yahawashi. When Yahawashi is our ruler, our king, our Lord, our savior, our judge, right, he's going to be judging the nation of Israel and putting us in righteousness. Right, that's what Yahawashi came to do. Right, get Yasha back on one accord. Right, die for our sins, allow us to have the same spiritual body so we can be alleviated from damn wrestling against these different thoughts and different demons that we fight on a daily, and also bring us to the kingdom, man. Right, and judge Yasha in righteousness and order. Right, let's get another precept on Yahawashi being our judge. Right, this is Isaiah chapter 9, and I'm going to start at verse 6. Isaiah 9 and 6. "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given." Slakia. It says, "And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace." Right, so Yahawashi is the mighty God, man. Right, it's through Yahweh by Hashem Yahawashi that we're here today. That all things are created, pursuing the Colossians, the 1st chapter. Right, he's the everlasting Father because he acts as a father figure to the nation of Israel. Right, pleading for the widow. Right, being there for the fatherless. Right, healing this. The same roles as so-called, well, I won't say so-called, but Israelite man is supposed to be doing for the nation of Israel, and Yahawashi does it on a magnificent level. Right, he's known as the Prince of Peace. Right, reading on, it says, "Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of Yahweh of hosts will perform this." Right, so the Most High God put Yahawashi on David's seat. Right, it tells you that in the book of Psalm 110 and 1 on down. Right, that's the lineage in Psalm the 72nd chapter. Right, so these are the things that's going on, man. Right, let's get another precept on this. Right, I got one more precept before we continue on. This is the book of Jeremiah. This is the book of Jeremiah chapter 23, and I'm going to start at verse 5. Right, Jeremiah 23 and 5. "Behold, the day is come, said Yahweh, that I will rise unto David a righteous branch." And who is known as that branch? Yahawashi is that branch. Wait, real quick, let's get a quick precept. Alright, let's go to the book of Zechariah. Right, so Yahawashi is that branch. I can also tell you in Isaiah, the 11th chapter. Let's go to Zechariah real quick. Alright, this is the book of Zechariah, chapter 6, and I'm going to start at verse 12. Right, Zechariah chapter 6 and verse 12. "And speak unto him, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, Behold, the man whose name is the branch, he shall grow up out of his place, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. Even he shall build the temple of the Lord, and he shall bear the glory, and shall sit and rule upon his throne. And he shall be a priest upon his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both. Right, so on one fold, this is going into Zerubbabel, right, who is known as the governor of Israel, right, on one fold. But on another fold, this is going to Yahawashi, him being that governor and the priest for the nation of Israel, right? He's a king for the nation of Israel. He's also the priest. You can read about that in his Hebrews, the 7th chapter, right? So Yahawashi is known as that branch, man, right? Like I mentioned, we still got it in Jeremiah 23 and verse 5. It says, behold, the days come, said Yahweh, that I will rise unto David a righteous branch. And we know Yahawashi comes from the lineage and seed line of David, right? That's in Luke, the 3rd chapter, Matthew, the 1st chapter. And a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. Right? It's not going into when Hezekiah is on the throne. It's not going into when none of the kings is on the throne, because Israel, or the southern kingdom and northern kingdom, wasn't in peace and harmony at once. Right? These things take place during Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, when Yahawashi is going to bring both sticks into one. Right, reading on. It says, and this is his name whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. Right, so again, Josiah is not named the Lord our righteousness. Hezekiah isn't that given that name. Solomon isn't even given that name. Right? But this is going into when Yahawashi is ruling through the nation of Israel. All right, so back to Micah, the 5th chapter. And we have verse 1 again. Micah 5:1. Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. He had laid siege upon us. They shall smite the judge of Israel with a rod upon the cheek. Right, and this took place, right, when these damn Romans came through, right, and they grabbed up our Lord Yahawashi. All right, let's go to Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 53. All right, so again, it's not talking about no other king but the Lord Yahawashi. Right, Micah is a prophet prophesying that things is going to befall Israel in the days to come. When Yahawashi is on the scene, when Israel is gathered back out of every place we've been scattered to, and also when we're back in our land. Right? This is Isaiah chapter 53, and we're going to start at verse 4. Isaiah 53 and 4, it says, I start at verse 3. It says, he is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Right, Yahawashi was despised, man, mocked of his own people. Right, our own people said, hey, that's not our king, man. Right, deliver him. Right, we have no king but Caesar. That's being despised. You creating these people, and they damn despising you, man. Verse 4, it says, surely he had borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. Right, so Yahawashi was smitten of the Most High. The Most High allowed these devils to smite our king so that the sheep shall be scattered. Right, we're going to get that precept. Reading on, verse 5. But he was wounded for our transgressions. Right, Yahawashi was put on that cross for the nation of Israel, man. Right, he took our sins, right, nailed it with him, so that now, every time we go the hell off, instead of offering up a sacrifice, right, we offering up a sacrifice with our lips, praising the Most High God, asking for repentance, right, and stop doing it again. Right? Reading on, verse 5. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and Yahweh had laid on him the iniquity of us all. All right, so there you have it. Let's go to the book of Zechariah. All right, Zechariah chapter 13 and verse 7. Right, it's Zechariah 13 and 7. It reads, awake, O sword, against my shepherd. Right, and the sword of the Lord is going into these so-called white men. Right, these damn devils that the Bible speaks of. Right, not only were they given a birthright. Right, let's go to the Genesis 27 chapter real quick. Right, not only were they given a birthright, but they're also the sword of the Lord, executing judgment from time to time for the Most High God. Right, and this is Genesis chapter 27, and I'm going to start at verse 39. Right, Genesis 27:39. It says, and Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above, and by thy sword shalt thou live. Right? So this is the blessing that was given to Esau, man, for them to live by the sword. So when the Lord says, awake, O sword, we know in Psalm 17 and 13, the sword of the Lord is Esau, is these children of men, right? Again, that execute judgment for the Lord from time to time. So back to Zechariah 13 and 7, awake, O sword, against my shepherd, right? And the shepherd of the Lord is Yahawashi. He's the shepherd for the sheep, right? Leading us and bringing us back. The reason why we all on this live right now, right? Or the reason why we're in this truth right now is because Yahawashi, right? Yahweh Hashem Yahawashi, which sent down a spirit of truth to us so that we can bear witness with this thing and waking up. So he's leading us back to the Father. It says, and against the man that is my fellow, said the Lord of hosts, smite the shepherd, and his sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn my hand upon the little ones. And that happened, right? Yahawashi was smitten. From there, the church was persecuted. And from there, Israel was scattered into the four corners of the earth. Right? Let's go to 2nd Ezra, the 7th chapter. Right? So these things is prophesied and these things happen. And this is 2nd Ezra chapter 7. And I'm going to start at verse 28. Right? 2nd Ezra 7 and 28. It says, 2nd Ezra chapter 7 and verse 28. It says, for my son Yahawashi shall be revealed with those that be with him, and they that remain shall rejoice within 400 years. After these years shall my son Hamashiach die, and all men that have life, right? And the world shall be turned into old silence 7 days, like as in the former judgments, so that no man shall remain therein. Right, so what this is going into is the time period when Yahawashi was taken off the scene, right? And the world is talking about is the world of Israel being reverted back to our old wicked ways, right? Reading on, it says, I'm gonna read that again. And after 7 days, the world that yet awaketh not shall be raised up, and that shall die that is corrupt, right? I'm gonna read verse 32 real quick. And the earth shall restore those that are asleep in her, and so shall the dust those that dwell in silence, and in secret places shall deliver those souls that were committed unto them. Right, so what this is going into is, let's go to Revelation 11 chapter. Salakia. Right, Revelation chapter 11. Right, this is that time period of that week, those 7 days. Right, Daniel made it put it perfectly abundantly clear that in the midst of the week, right, we got 3.5 days. That's the midst of 7 days, right? 3.5 days. And that's the time period of Israel rising up. That's also the time period of 1,260 days, right? Or the 42 months. That's written in Revelation 11 chapter, right? So that's where we want to go, right? This is Revelation chapter 11, and we can start at verse 2, right? Revelation 11 and 2. It says, but the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. In the holy city shall they tread underfoot 40 and 2 months. So the 40 and 2 months is 1,260 days, or the first 3.5 days where Israel is trampled underfoot by the heathen. And in the midst of that, we're rising up to our nationality, right? The Lord allowed these devils to lay siege to the nation of Israel. Let's go to, we'll come right back to this. Let's go to Luke, right? Because we got to break everything down. We don't want to leave no stone unturned. Let's go to Luke, the 21st chapter. Right? Lord willing is somebody that's diligently taking notes. Right? There's 9 people on his live, but Lord willing, someone, right? We're making this breakdown for someone that wanted to break down the Micah, the 5th chapter. They don't want to just, get a summary of it. We want to go and touch on everything. Right? So this is Luke chapter 21. Luke 21, and I'm going to start at verse, Slakia. Bear with me 1 second. Luke 21, and we're going to start at verse 20. Right? Luke 21 and 20. And bear with me 1 second. I'm going to actually put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So this is Luke 21 and verse 20. And it reads, and we shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Right? And on one fold, this is going into the time period of 70 AD. Right? 66 to 70 AD, where these Romans came through and they laid siege to Jerusalem. That's on one fold. On another fold, this is going into the time period that's going to come up soon, right? Where third abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, is going to be back on this earth, man. Jacob's trouble, right? Reading on, though. So we get in the fold of during the time of this happening during the Romans. Reading on. It says, then, verse 21, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it, Slakia, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. Right, so we was told not to go back unto Jerusalem. Why? Because Jerusalem was being laid siege. Right, they literally destroyed our temple. They destroyed everything in our holy land. Right, and we were scattered from the northern part of Africa, even into the western parts of Africa, and wherever else we could find refuge. From there, we lived 1,000 years during the time of the so-called Middle Ages or Dark Ages, where we actually ruled, right, parts of Europe. And then ultimately, we was back to being relegated back into damn western part and northern part of Africa. From there, we was taken into damn captivity during the transatlantic, right, the trans-Saharan or sub-Saharan, and the Silk Road slave trades, man. And now we here in 2021, scattered everywhere, like sheep without our shepherd. Right, reading on though, it says, verse 22, and these be the days of vengeance. It's like, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Verse 23, but woe unto them that are with child. I'm gonna jump down to verse 24. Get right to the point. Verse 24, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And we're living in the times of the Gentiles, where the heathen are ruling over us. Right? That's why I told you in Revelation chapter 11 and verse 2, I'm going to read it again. But the court which is without the temple will leave out, meaning those is not measured or accounted worthy of being a part of the Lord temple that he's building right now. And he's not dealing with them. And those are considered the 2/3 in the heathen. The Lord is not dealing with that. Right? The Lord is dealing with the elect. Reading on, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall be trod, it's like it shall be tread underfoot 42 months. And we just read when this first initially took place, when we were originally kicked out of our land. So that time period started. Reading on, it says, and I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, which is 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before God, before the God of the earth. Right. So on one fold, and you can read about this in Zechariah, the 4th chapter. Right. We're not going to touch on this whole breakdown, this alone. But in Zechariah, the 4th chapter, this is going into Joshua and Zerubbabel, being those 2 olive trees who are pushing out the anointing oil for the nation of Israel to be waking up in these last days. Joshua and Zerubbabel, the significance of these 2 being the olive trees and pushing out this anointing oil is that they both are symbolic of the Lord Yahawashi. Joshua being a priest and a priesthood Yahawashi is establishing on the scene, and also Zerubbabel being the governor or the king and ruler of the nation of Israel. Right? So, and that's on one fold. These are 2 olive trees on one fold. On another fold, you hear brothers break it down as Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom, right? Which is not off to say neither, right? Given that there's prophets that come from Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom and are waking up the nation of Israel today, right? It's not just Judah out there. It's not just Benjamin out there. We got brothers from Zebulun. We got brothers from Issachar, brothers from Ephraim, Manasseh, on down, right? That's waking up the nation of Israel today. Reading on. I'm going to jump to verse, Salakia. I'm going to jump to verse 10, right? Verse 10 real quick, right? It says, and they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry and shall send gifts one to another. Right? These devils, these heathen that's rejoicing over the nation of Israel, seeing us falling in our lowest estate. Right? They're rejoicing that they can then make merchandise of us. And they can keep us in sin. And as long as we're in sin, pursuing the Judah, the 5th chapter, they can do what the hell they want to do. Reading on. Because these 2 prophets tormented them that dwell on the earth. Right? And another fold, those 2 prophets was also going into Elijah and Moses, representing the prophets and the law. So they're happy that Israel is not ruling right now. So they can do what they want to do on this earth. Verse 11. And after 3 days and a half, again, 3 days and a half is half of a week. And half of a week is going into that 1,260 days or that 42 months. So after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. So this is the time period we're in right now. That 3 days and a half where Israel's waking up to our nationality, right? And the end of the 7 days and the end of all of this, we'll be back in our land. The law will be sealed in our inward parts, and we'll be ruling forever and ever. Abaratazah with Yahawashi, right? But it's the time period we in right now where we got to wake up. Right, let's get another precept on this. All right, Slaki, let's go back to real quick. Let's go back to Second Ezra, the 7th chapter. Let's finish that off. Then we're gonna grab this precept. So this is Second Ezra chapter 7 and verse 31 again. It says, "And after 7 days, the world that yet awaketh not shall be raised up, and that shall die that is corrupt." Right. So in the end of all of this, right, Yasha'Allah is gonna be waking up to our nationality. Right, and we're going to be fully convinced again, and the law is going to be in our inward parts, like I tell you in the book of Ezekiel, the 20th chapter, and we'll be back in our land. Reading on. "And the earth shall restore those that are asleep in her," meaning those that so-called dead, and so shall the dust those that dwell in silence. And this is going into those that spiritually dead, like it read later or earlier on in Revelation 11 chapter 8 on down. Reading on. "In the secret places shall deliver those souls that were committed unto them." Right, so that's it on that. Let's go to Hosea the 6th chapter. All right, Hosea the 6th chapter. All right, and if you're just tuning in, we're still breaking down Micah the 6th chapter, or Micah the 5th chapter, man. Right, so this is Hosea chapter 6. We're gonna start at verse 1. "Come and let us return unto the Lord. For he had torn, and he will heal us. He has smitten, and he will bind us up." Right, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahshai, or Yahweh smitten the Lord Yahawashi, and allow these heathen to do what they want to do to him, right, on a lower level, right? But also, Israel is also smitten, man. Right, we don't know the hell we are. We destroyed as a people. The Lord allows these heathen to just trample us over feet. Right, we damn lay down, and they walk all over us. They do whatever they want to do to the so-called black, Latino, and Native American man. Right? Reading on. "After 2 days will he revive us, and the 3rd day he will rise us up, and we shall live in his sight." And this is, again, like we mentioned, this is taking place right now. Right? The first 3 days and a half. So back to Micah, the 5th chapter. Right? We back in Micah chapter 5. Micah chapter 5 and verse 2 now. It says, I'm going to read verse 1 again. "Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. He had laid siege upon us." It's like against us. "They shall smite the judge of Israel with a rod upon the cheek. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting." Right, so Yahawashi is from Bethlehem, man. Right? Let's get this precept. Right, if you thought this was somebody else, then you mistaken, man. These things was prophesied for the Lord Yahawashi that come from. Let me get St. John real quick. These things were prophesied of the Lord Yahawashi. This is St. John chapter 7 and verse 40. St. John 7 and 40. It says, "Many of the people therefore, when they heard this saying, said of a truth, this is the prophet. Others said, this is the Hamashiach. But some said, shall Hamashiach come out of Galilee?" Right, because Yahawashi, he lived in Galilee. Right, but he wasn't born in Galilee. Verse 42. "Had not the scripture said that Hamashiach cometh of the seed of David, and out of the town of Bethlehem, where David was? So there was division among the people because of him, and some of them would have taken him, but no man laid hands on him." Right? So let's go to St. Matthew, the 2nd chapter. So these Jews was damn confused, man. Not really knowing what's going on. Aaron not knowing the scriptures. This is St. Matthew, chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse 4. St. Matthew 2 and 4. I started 3. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Hamashiach should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Right, so this is verbatim going into what we're reading about in Micah the 5th chapter. Right, so this nonetheless is going into Yahawashi. So back to Micah chapter 5, we're going to read verse 3. Therefore will he give them up unto the time that she which travaileth had brought forth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel. So this is going into when Israel, right, literally is without our shepherd. Right, this is the time where it says she which travaileth had brought forth. And that she is talking about is Israel. Right? Israel is referred to as a woman. Like you read about in Revelation, the 12th chapter. I'm going to get a quick one real quick. This is Jeremiah, the 6th chapter. This is Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 2. I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. Right? So, Yasha'Allah, right? We're the, that woman that's married to the Lord, Yahawashi. Right? It's another one. This is Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 5. Right? And this is not literal. We're not literally women. Right? This is on a spiritual level. Just meaning we're joined to the Most High God. And it's as if a man was married to his woman. So is Yahawashi married to the church. Like I tell you in, I believe it's Ephesians, the 5th chapter. Right? So this is Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 5. For thy maker is thy husband. The Lord of hosts is his name. And thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the God of the whole earth, shall he be called. Right? So, verse 6, the point. For the Lord had called thee as a woman, forsaken and grieved in spirit. And that's us going through that travail. It tells you about, like we're reading about in Micah 5 and 3. That travail where we're without a shepherd. Where we're damn alone in these spiritual streets. We out here in damn darkness. We kind of caught out there. A woman that's kind of out there damn 3 a.m. in the morning, right? She might get jammed up. Israel, we out here jammed up spiritually, man. Right? Our husband has left us. Right? Because we forsook our husband in the first place. Kind of slammed the door, kind of walked out, kind of ran. It's raining outside. It's damn so-called thugs outside. And we kind of just, we just out there. Right? Reading on. It says, in a wife of youth, when thou was refused, said the Lord thy God, for a moment, it's like for a small moment, have I forsaken thee. But with great miseries will I gather thee. In a little wrath I hid my face from thee for a moment. But with everlasting kindness will I have mercy on thee, said Yahweh thy Redeemer. Right? So this is what's going on. This is what's taking place. Right? So Isaiah, it's like Micah chapter 5 and verse 4. It says, and he shall stand and feed in the strength of Yahweh, in the majesty of the Lord, it's like of the name of the Lord his God, and they shall abide. For now shall he be great unto the ends of the earth. And this man shall be the peace when the Assyrian shall come into our land. And when he shall tread in our palaces, then shall we rise against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. So what this is taking place is, this Assyrian is not literally going into when the Assyrians is going to try to come. All of this is taking place, right, like we read, during the time of Yahawashi coming on the scene, him leaving the scene, and him returning back on the scene. So verse 5 is picking back up when Yahawashi returns back on the scene. Right? I'm going to read it again. And this man shall be the peace when the Assyrian shall come into our land. Right? This Assyrian is going into a man of power. Like it tell you in Ezekiel, the 31st chapter. The chosen Adam was referred to as an Assyrian man. Right? Just a man of power. Right? The so-called white man today, he's known as the Assyrian man. How do we know that? Let's go to Isaiah, the 10th chapter. So this is Isaiah chapter 10. And I believe I want to start at Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 5. Right? It's Isaiah 10 and 5. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is my indignation. Right? So this Assyrian is known as the rod of the Lord's anger. Right? Who gets Israel in subjection? Right? The damn so-called white man. The damn Edomites. Right? We're the rod of the Lord. It's like he's the rod of the Lord's anger, because from time to time, like I mentioned previously, the Lord uses them, right, to get Israel in subjection and get us back in order. Right? During the time of the Grecians, during the time of the Romans, and now during the time of the so-called Babylonian Empire. Again, Babylon the Great, America. This is Psalm chapter 17, and I'm going to start at verse 12. Psalm 17 and 12. Like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, and as it were a young lion lurking in secret places. Arise, O Yahweh, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. Right? The wicked, which is chiefly Esau, is the sword of the Lord. Verse 14. From men which are thy hand, O Yahweh, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasure. They are full of children, and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. Right? So the rod of the Lord's the rod of the Lord's anger is none other than a so-called white man. Right? He's known as the Assyrian man. The Assyrian is just a title. Like they're also known as the Egyptians. This is chiefly going into them being in Egyptian and Syria is two of our chief captivities at a period of time. Right? That's why it tells you in Isaiah 11th chapter that we're referred to as Assyrian and Egyptians. So again, this is Assyrian is representative of someone that's in power. Right? And during the time of the end, those who's going to be in power is the Edomites. Chiefly those of Russia. That will be the last Edomite kingdoms that's in power. And you can read about that in 2nd Ezra, the 12th chapter. Lord willing, we'll touch on it. Right? So back to Micah, the 5th chapter real quick. This is Micah. Slakia. I had another precept on this. Let me get Isaiah the 10th chapter real quick. Right? This is Isaiah chapter 10 in verse 23. Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 23. For the Lord God of for the Lord God of hosts shall make a consummation, even determined in the midst of all the land. Therefore, thus said the Lord of hosts, Lord Yahweh of hosts, O my people that dwellest in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite thee with a rod, and shall lift up his staff against thee, after the manner of Egypt. So just like how the Egyptians ruled over the children of Israel, this Assyrian man will do the same thing. And we know that just like how we were afflicted and put in hardcore bondage, just like the Egyptian captivity, and we have it take place, or the same things have taken place in America, and under the rulership of the so-called white man. So again, he's the Assyrian man, right? On one fold. So we go back to Micah the 5th chapter in verse 5. And this man shall be the peace when the Assyrian shall come into our land. And when he shall tread in our palaces, then shall we rise against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. So when we're back in our land, after World War III, after the 7th trumpet, when we're back in our land, right? Let's go to Ezekiel the 30th chapter, right? Those of Gog and Magog, which is chiefly just going into Russia and its allies, right? Turkey and whatnot, or those lands of Turkey and whatnot, they're going to try to come against the nation of Israel, right? Our temple is not going to be built up. Our land's not going to be built up. And we're going to need heathen to come and build this thing up, man. This is going to be the final battle to take place. Where these so-called Russians and our different allies are going to try to come and besiege Jerusalem for the final time. But they're going to be surely mistaken when Yahawashi is going to fight for us, and the angels going to fight and destroy all the heathen. And from there, we're going to run up in their houses. We're going to take whatever we want to take. We're going to gather them up. We're going to throw them down in a pit for a period of time. We're going to take them from that pit, bring them to our land, and they're going to build up Jerusalem. So this is Ezekiel chapter 38, and I'm going to start at verse 1. Right, Ezekiel 38 and 1. It says, and a word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And say, thus said the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief priest of Meshech and Tubal. And I will turn thee back, and put hooks in thy jaw, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So when these damn devils come through our land, and shalom to all the brothers that's watching this, right? And all the sisters that's watching this, right? So when these devils try to come to our land, they're going to think that they can damn lay siege to Jerusalem again. That we just niggas again. They can damn come and do whatever they want to do to us. The Lord is going to allow that to happen. They're going to be fully convinced in their mind that they can still rule. And this is going into the time when the Russians are in rulership. Right, real quick before we continue. Right, let's verify that. This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 12, and I'm going to start at verse 22. 2nd Ezra 12 and 22. And it reads, and whereas thou sawest 3 heads resting, this is the interpretation. Verse 23. In his last days shall the Most High rise up 3 kingdoms and renew many things therein, and they shall have the dominion of the earth. Right, so this is going into the 3 heads, right, of this eagle. And we know the eagle is representative of the Edomites. That's all throughout the book of Obadiah, right? So these 3 different rulers, or 3 different kingdoms and dominions that's going to rule in the last days for Esau is none other than the United States, right? So-called USA. You got Russia, and you got the EU. These are the 3 dominions, or 3 governing bodies of Esau, man. The chief 3 superpowers for the Edomite empire. Reading on. It says, and of those that dwell therein with much oppression above all those that were before them. Therefore are they called the heads of the eagle. Verse 25. For these are they that shall accomplish his wickedness, and that shall finish his last end. Right? These are the last ones in rulership. And in order, it will be US, EU, and Russia. Russia will be the final Edomite empire to rule. It's not going to be for long, right? It's going to be for a period of time. They're going to so-called win World War III, and then they're going to be destroyed by Yahawashi. Right? So that's a storybook ending for them. Reading on. It says, verse 26, and whereas thou sawest that the great head appeared no more, and that great head out of those 3 is America. America's that great head because it comes right out of Rome. And it comes right out of so-called Britain. Right? And it's established. It devoured France. It devoured Spain. It devoured Britain. And it made its way as a superpower. Right? Reading on. Right? And it devours any land it wants to go to right now. Russia, it can do the same thing. But the so-called respect is put on America right now. Right? The Lord allowed America to be built up. Just like how he allowed Egypt to be built up. All just so when America destroys, it's like when Yahweh destroys America, he'll get his name back on this earth. Right? Con all praise the Most High. Hey, you got to get in there, brother. Right? Reading on. It says, where is that? Verse 26 again. And whereas thou sawest that the great head appeared no more, it signified that one of them should die upon his bed, and yet with pain. And when this is talking about, it's talking about America being destroyed suddenly. When you die upon your bed, you're not expecting to damn be put to death. Right? You get on your bed for comfort, for rest, for peace. When America is living peacefully, when they say peace and safety, then destruction cometh suddenly. Right? And that tells you that in the book of 1 Thessalonians, the 5th chapter. But I'm going to get, let's go to Joel. Let's go to Job real quick. Right? This is Job chapter 20. Job chapter 20, and I believe I want to start at verse 23. Job 20 and 23, it says, when he is about to fill his belly, Yahweh shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him. Right? So when Esau is thinking that, everything is cool, everything is so-called peaches and cream, the Lord is going to destroy them immediately, man. Hey, America will be destroyed in the space of 1 hour. Right? They're going to be taken away just like that. Reading on. It says, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. Right? And while you eating, or while you damn sleeping in your bed, you're not thinking that all hell is going to break loose. That's your peace. That's your chill moment. That's when you kind of chill out. you know, you had a long, stressful day. You kind of want to just get home and get a nice plate before you go to sleep. You in your bed, you kind of sleeping, you kind of chilling. You're not expecting somebody to break through your door. You probably got the chain on your door. You got the lock on your door. You're not expecting nobody to come to your house. And that's the same way with damn America. America's not expecting nobody to come through their house. They didn't spend years fortifying their so-called Eastern or the Atlantic Ocean, right? The so-called East Coast and the so-called West Coast. They're not expecting nobody to come to America and to destroy America, right? Years they didn't have nobody come to their land. That's why they're so-called undefiled and untouched. Like I tell you in Isaiah the 47th chapter, but the Lord is going to allow them to sit down in the dust, right? Isaiah 47, 1 on down, right? Reading on, it says, what I said on that, right? So let's go back to 2nd Ezra 12, and where we at? Verse 27. It says, for the two that remain shall be slain with the sword. For the sword of the one shall devour the other, but at the last shall he fall through the sword himself. Right, so what this is going into is, let's go to Revelation 13th chapter. Right? So let me get it in this book. Right, so this is Revelation chapter 13. Real quick. Right? Revelation chapter 13, and we're going to start at verse 2. Revelation 13 and 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. Right? And this beast is going into Esau. It was like unto a leopard, representative of, I'm going to read on. And his feet were as, Slacky, well, that's it on that. So I'm going to read it again, verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. Right? So the time of the Grecians ruling, right? They were able to easily subdue their enemy, and devour the so-called known world at the time, right? So-called Alexander the Great was, in record speed, right? And that's representative of being a leopard. Right? Going through, devouring different lands and being swift and fierce, just like a leopard. Also, it's so-called known that every time he went out to war, Alexander, this man had a so-called a leopard skin hat. Right? I believe that's put out there. Right? You can look that up. It says, reading on. So that leopard is representative of Greece. And his feet were as the feet of a bear. And the feet is the end of you, the bottom of you. Right? The last ones to be in rulership will be Russia. Russia, if you look, their so-called animal for their, or symbol of their whole country is a damn bear. It's called the Russian bear. Right? So you can look those things up. It says, in his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And this is going into the political system that all of these Edomite, well, chiefly that's embodied today being of the so-called UK or EU. Right? All the politics of Esau truly comes out of the so-called British, right? How they go on law, how they their different policies they set up, like not democracy, but their monarchy, right? These things are chiefly all these other nations beside America, all these other Edomite nations beside America. They have a king, right? These nations aren't so-called democratic. America has to go and spread their so-called democracy to try to get everybody to come and get under foot to them. Just like how Rome did and just like how Greece did. Reading on. And the dragon, which is the so-called Roman Empire, gave him his power. Right? The so-called Roman Empire is the ones that's truly still stirring up all these damn different Edomite empires today. Like we read in 2nd Ezra 12th chapter, US, EU, and Russia all still get their power from Rome. Right? So that's it on that. So we go back to Micah the 5th chapter. It's like Ezekiel. I believe it was in Ezekiel. Let's go back to Ezekiel the 38th chapter. Right, so we touched on who's gonna be that who's gonna be coming through and try to besiege the land of Jerusalem. Right, so back to Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 3. Right, and Gog and Magog is and today is relegated to the lands of where Russia and its allies dwell in. Right, reading on. So this is Ezekiel chapter 38, and we have verse 5. It says Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with all them, with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So this is the point. Verse 8. After many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword. So after many years, meaning in the time of the end, Russia and his allies are going to try to come to the land of Israel. That's the land that's brought back from the sword. We was devoured, but now the Lord is going to allow us to be placed back in our land. We read in Hosea the 6th chapter, the Lord is smitten, but he's going to rise us up. We read in 2nd Ezra the 7th chapter, the Lord allowed us to be destroyed. He smote our shepherd, the Lord Yahawashi, but now we're being risen back up. We read about that in Revelation 11th chapter. All these things link up. That's what the Lord said, precept upon precept. Might be like, well, we breaking down Micah the 5th chapter. Why are you going to these different books? Well, because we got to do that, man. That's the only way we're going to break these different things down. Right? So reading on, it says, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste. But it is brought forth of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Verse 9, thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands, meaning all our different troops, and many people with thee. So all these different heathen are going to think to come and try to overthrow Yasharahla once again. Again, that we just still nobodies. They still can walk all over us. They still ain't really put it in their mind that, hey, we the Lord's chosen, man. Even after seeing our deliverance in the chariots, and this is taking place following the second wilderness, after seeing our deliverance in the chariots, us being placed back into our land, right, to be built up, right? They didn't see all of that, or they saw all of that, but they still ain't fathom that we the Lord's chosen, man. So they still gonna be prideful enough to try to come and destroy us. But this is going to happen. Reading on. Verse 10. It says, thus said the Lord Yahweh, it shall also come to pass that at the same time at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And that evil thought is that they can destroy us again. Verse 11. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. The land of unwalled villages is Jerusalem in Israel, without our defense system. I will go to them that are at rest, right? Because when we get back to our land, it's not gonna be just so-called miraculously built up. Them things take time, man. We're not gonna go out there and build it up ourselves, and we're gonna get the heathen to do so. When we back over there, it's not gonna just be damn built up in its glory and its esteem. Those things gotta be built up, right? We're gonna allow the heathen to do so. It tell you that in Isaiah the 60th chapter. Right, so this is going into the time period where it's not built up. Just right before that, right before we get them heathen again, as slaves. Reading on, it says that dwell safely of all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land. Right, so they're going to try to come over to destroy us, thinking, we don't got no, nobody's going to fight for us, right? We don't got no, our walls aren't built up, it's not fortified. Our cities can be easily ran through. They can come through and take women again. They can come through and take men captive again. They can come through and take our gold and spoils again. I mean, our different so-called riches and whatnot. They think they can do all those things like they did previously. Like during the time of Nebuchadnezzar. Like during the time of damn Alexander. Like during the time of damn all the different Roman empire or emperors. They think they can do those things again. But they're going to be surely forsaken. I'm going to jump to verse 14. Therefore, son of man, prophesy and say unto Gog, thus said the Lord Yahweh, in that day when my people of Israel dwell safely, shalt thou not know it? And thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts. And the north parts, northern of Israel, is going into Russia and its different lands and its different allies. You got those is occupying Turkey. Those is occupying those different lands, right? And you can look at the map yourself. I don't got it pulled up. I don't got my Bible timelines and maps book over here. But if you look at it, northern of Israel is them Russia and its different lands, Gog and Magog, so to speak, right? So that's the northern parts. It's not going into the land of the north, which is Babylon, or the daughter of Babylon, but it's going into the north country, which is going into Russia. It says, and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company and a mighty army. And they're not literally going to be riding upon horses. Their horses today are their damn fighter jets, their different aircraft that they're going to use to try to deploy against Yasharahla. Verse 16, and thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days, and I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O Gog, before their eyes. So the Lord's putting it in their spirit to kind of come up against Israel, being prideful, thinking again that, the Lord's not going to fight for us, only for the Lord to continue to put his name and magnify his name in the earth. So they're going to be surely devoured swiftly by the Most High God through his son Yahawashi. Reading on. And this whole chapter and it even, further goes on in the 39th chapter. Right, we're going to read on. It says, thus said the Lord Yahweh, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servants, the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I will bring thee against them. And it shall come, and all the prophets prophesied of this. Right, we literally reading about it in Isaiah. We read about it in Isaiah, the 10th chapter, reading about it in Micah, the 5th chapter, reading about it over here in Ezekiel 38, 39. You got 2nd Ezra, the 12th chapter. Right, these things is prophesied. 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter. Right, reading on. It says, and it shall come to pass at that same time, when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, said the Lord Yahweh, then my fury shall come up in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake in my presence, and a mountain shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, said the Lord Yahweh. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. Right, and we read in 2nd Ezra 12, I'm going to get this again. 2nd Ezra 12 and 27. For the two that shall remain, shall be slain with the sword. For the sword of the one shall devour the other. Right, Russia is going to destroy EU at the last. But at the last shall he fall through the sword himself. So the Lord, at the end of all of that, is going to allow Russia and his different allies to devour each other. He's going to allow them to fight against each other. Right, war is going to break out amongst each other. Right, and they're going to be put to death themselves. They're going to be killing each other, man. It's going to be putting their spirit to just devour each other in fear of being destroyed by Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. So reading on in Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. Where we at? Verse 22. And I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands and upon the many people that are with him, an overflowing rain, great hailstones, fire, and brimstone. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. Right? So that's what's going to take place. And like I said, it carries on in the book of the 39th chapter, Ezekiel, the 39th chapter. But we can go back to Micah, the 5th chapter. All right. So now we in Micah chapter 5. And we touching on again, when these heathen try to come to our land, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua is going to rise up these different angels, and they're going to lay waste to these different, to Russia and his allies. So this is Micah chapter 5 and verse 6 again. And they shall lay waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod and the entrances thereof. And the land of the entrances of Nimrod is just going into Assyria. Not only did Nimrod rule through Babylonia, but he also ruled through Assyria. But again, this is not talking about the literal Assyrian man. This is just going into the different land, chiefly the man that's ruling at the time, which would be Esau, through the Roman or the Russian Empire, that will come through and try to lay waste to the nation of Israel. Right? It's plain. It says, thus shall he deliver us from the Assyrian when he cometh into our land, and when he treadeth within our borders. And we read about that in Ezekiel 38 and 39. Or 38. It says, and the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many people, as a dew from Yahweh, as it showers upon the grass, that tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the sons of men. Right? Slaki, I want to preach that real quick. All right. So not only can we get this in Ezekiel the 38th chapter, but you also can read Zechariah the 12th chapter. Right? I don't want, like I said, I want to leave no stone unturned. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 12, and we'll start at verse 1. It says, the burden of the word of Yahweh for Israel, said Yahweh, will stretch forth the heavens and lay the foundation of the earth, and form the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all people round about, when they shall be in a siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. Right. Everyone that's still remaining at the time, that's why I mentioned is Russia and his allies. They're going to try to come through, and they're going to think that we got to put them out of the earth, man. Right. We don't want to damn see being that the things that's prophesied that they prophesy week in and week out. They will be their slaves. They will be trying underfoot to these damn niggas. Right. We don't want to have to deal with that. Hey, let's rise up real quick and let's go and destroy them. This is the thoughts that the Lord is going to put in their minds. That's what the Lord said is going to be they're going to think an evil thought. Reading on. It says, verse 4, in that day, said Yahweh, I will smite every horse with astonishment and his rider with madness. Meaning he's going to allow those different aircraft to be shot down the sky and taken out the earth. Reading on. It says, and I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah and will smite every horse of the people with blindness, and the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength, and the Lord Yahweh of hosts their God. In that day I will make the governors of Judah like a hearth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. So when Yahweh B'Shem Yahshai is fighting for us, and different angels is out there destroying, right, we're going to be able to go and spoil these different nations, man, or Esau, and rob those that robbed us. Reading on. And Yahweh shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. Right, that's really it on that. Right, that's it on that. That's the point I wanted. I'm going to go to, let's get, this is Zechariah chapter 14. Zechariah chapter 14, I'm going to start at verse 2. Zechariah chapter, I start at verse 1. This is the book of Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 1. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Right, so this is going to take place, like we mentioned, man, where we're going to get our wealth and abundance back from these other nations. Right, they robbed us. We're going to be able to go through these different lands. After these heathens try to come through and besiege Jerusalem, they're going to be destroyed. We're going to put them to flight. We're going to grab the remaining of them that's still alive, bring them as slaves, go out throughout the earth, grab the rest of the damn Edomites and the rest of the nations, grab them up, bring them back to Jerusalem, and they're going to build up our walls again in our land. Right? I'm going to jump to verse 14 real quick. It says, and Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. And so shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, of the ass, and of all the beasts that shall be in those tents, as this plague. Right? So that's plain on that. Right? So let's go back to Ezekiel the 39th chapter real quick. Right? Then we go and finish out Micah. Right? Let's go to Ezekiel 39 real quick. We're going to start at verse Ezekiel 39, and we'll start at verse 6. Ezekiel 39 and 6. It says, and I will send a fire on Magog and among them that dwell carelessly in the isles. And they shall know that I am the Lord. And the isles is going into the isles of the Gentiles, where currently Esau dwells at. Where they took, literally, you read about this in the book of First Maccabees, the first chapter, where the Grecians literally took the lands where Japheth dwelt at. So wherever Japheth dwelt, which would be Gog and Magog, Meshech and Tubal, those lands, which are known as the Isles of the Gentiles, Esau dwells in them now. And that's current day Russia, Turkey, and them different Uzbekistan, all those different damn weird names. Right? Reading on, verse 7. It says, so I make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahweh, the Holy One in Israel. Verse 8. Behold, it shall come, and it is done, said Yahweh. This is the day whereof I have spoken. And they that dwell in the cities of Israel shall go forth and shall set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and the bucklers, the bows, the arrows, and the handstaffs, and the spears, and they shall burn them with fire 7 years. We're going to have to cleanse our land. Because those things are not just going to be miraculously disappearing, right? All those different different pieces of the helicopters, the different pieces of the aircraft, the different weapons, the AK-47s, the damn M16s, all those weapons are not going to just disappear. We're going to have to clean those things up. And we're going to do it by burning with fire. Like it says, verse 10, so that they shall take no wood out of the field, neither cut down any out of the forest, for they shall burn the weapons with fire, and they shall spoil those that spoiled them. And the spoil meaning rob. We're going to rob those that robbed us. And it reads on, and rob those that robbed them, said the Lord, said the Lord Yahweh. Right? So that's what's going to take place, man. Right? So back to Micah chapter 5, and we have verse 7 again. And the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many people as a dew from the land. Right? Because we're scattered abroad. Reading on. As the showers upon the grass that tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the sons of men. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion amongst the beasts of the forest. Right? We're going to be able to hunt and devour these different heathen, man. That's the charge the Lord is going to give to the elect. When I say we, I mean elect. Lord willing, we're counted as that. Lord willing, I'm counted as that. Right? But I'm just speaking in terms of Israel as we. Like, reading on. It says, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who if he go through, both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. And that's what the Lord is going to allow us to do. Let's go to Psalm the 18th chapter real quick. This is literally a prayer that David threw up to the Lord about trampling the heathen underfoot. Right? And really it's this whole Psalm 18, but we're going to get right to the point. Psalm 18, and I'm going to start at verse 33. He maketh my feet like hinds' feet, and sendeth me upon my high places. Right? And this is going into the Lord quickening this man in the end. Right? The Israelite man, the elect man. Right? And allowing this man to go through and devour the different nations. Reading on. It says, he teacheth my hands to war, so that a bow of steel is broken by my arms. Right? And David's going to be, of course, David's going to be able to do these things. Right? David is back here on this earth. And David's going to be given that charge to go and hunt and be a hunter now. Right now, we're fishers of men, like I tell you in Jeremiah 16 and 16. But soon, the Lord is going to give the charge to the elect to go ahead and be hunters. And go hunt out those that's hiding in the clefts of the rocks. Reading on. Verse 35. Thou hast also given me the shield of thy salvation, and thy right hand had holden me up, and thy gentleness had made me great. Thou hast enlarged my steps under me, that my feet did not slip. I have pursued mine enemies and overtaken them. Neither did I turn again all till they were consumed. Right? David said, I'm not going to stop till all these devils is out the earth, man. And that's what we all wish, that every single devil, and that's what we throw up curses against all Edomites, against all heathen, that they taken out this earth, that the Lord sends fire in their households, they devour their damn children. Reading on, it says, I have wounded them that they were not able to rise. They are fallen under my feet. For thou hast girded me with strength unto the battle. Thou hast subdued under me those that rose up against me. thou hast also given me the necks of mine enemies, that I might destroy them that hate me. So that's what you should want, man. That the Lord allows you to fully be able to recompense swift revenge against all your adversaries. A damn Bob that you work for, or all the different heathen that look at you and mock at you when you in the damn supermarket with your damn fringes on. Right? You wanna get just revenge on all those that hung your brothers and lit them on fire, that destroyed Sandra Blair, Sandra Blair, all the different sisters that was raped by the so-called white man in these different nations, and you want to get swift judgment put back on them. And the Lord is telling you, as long as you endure to the end, you'll be a part of one of those mighty men that will be hunters and will be given that charge to go and hunt the heathen out of these different lands they in. Right? Reading on. It says, verse 41. Well, I'm going to jump to verse. I'm reading on. They cried, but there was none to save them, even unto Yahweh, but he answered them not. Then did I beat them small as the dust before the wind. Right? Imagine just damn stumping somebody out to their damn particles and little pieces. And you still just kind of just using your staff, you just destroying them, man, to little old small pieces. Like the Lord said, we're going to break them into pieces in Revelation chapter 2 and verse 26 on down. We're literally going to break them they're going to devour them, man. These devils don't know what's coming. And we're going to light them on fire. Like I tell you in Sirach 21 and verse 9. Right, reading on. It says, I did cast them out as the dirt in the streets. Thou hast delivered me from the strivings of the people. Thou hast made me the head of the heathen. Right, and you'll be a judge over the heathen. It tell you that in the book of, all throughout Wisdom of Solomon, but you got Wisdom of Solomon 6th chapter, verses 6 and 9, or Sakia, verse 9, 20. You got the first chapter, 1 and 1. Right, we'll be, you got the 4th chapter in verse 15, the 3rd chapter in verse 9. Right, we'll be ruling over these heathen, Lord willing. And Daniel the 7th chapter, verses 18, 27. Reading on. It says, thou hast delivered me from the strivings of the people. Thou hast made me the head of the heathen. A people whom I have not known shall serve me. As soon as they hear of me, they shall obey me. The strangers shall submit themselves unto me. Right. So that's what's going to take place. That's what we're reading about in Micah the 5th chapter. Right. You got to read between the lines. This is things that's taking place, man. It's a mighty chapter. One of my favorite chapters in the whole Bible, man. Micah the 5th chapter. So we're going to read on in Micah chapter 5 and verse 9. It says, thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, that we're reading about right now. Right in Psalms the 18th chapter. The Lord is going to allow us to be lifted up against all our adversaries and all these devils that think to do us harm. Reading on. It says, and all thine enemies shall be cut off. And it shall come to pass in that day, said Yahweh, I will cut off the horses out of the midst of thee, and I will destroy thy chariots. And I will cut off the cities of thy land, and throw down all thy strongholds. Right, all the different nations we gather to, the Lord is going to destroy all those things. Right, the Lord is literally allowing these heathen to be built up just to get his name back on this earth. So when he destroys these things, right, everyone's going to fear Yahawashi again in the generations to come. Reading on. And I will cut off witchcrafts out of thine hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers. Right, and right now Israel's damn jammed up all throughout damn soothsaying and witchcrafts and getting into different sorceries. Get our women all bugged out using tarot cards and sage, running it through the house, talking about getting rid of damn evil spirits and whatnot. Those things is just, that's folly. That's folly, and you only getting it from the so-called those that's doing divination. Right, and a brother said it's an earthquake right now in the Bay Area. Right, and Lord willing, everyone that's in the Bay Area is safe right now, man. Those earthquakes gonna get a little crazy over there in the so-called West Coast. Right, in California. Right, those, I believe it's those equators, they're gonna split. Right, the Lord's gonna destroy California, man. Swiftly. So we back in Sirach the 34th chapter. And you learn about those, not to get off topic, but you learn about those things in damn elementary school, man. Elementary school, middle school, high school. They tell you about the way the equator is set up over there. Not the I think I might be saying it the term wrong, but the way it's set up, there you go. San Andreas Fault, that's what it is. The way that fault is set up, it's already been splitting over time, and over time it's going to continue to drift and drift, and eventually California is going to be removed from the so-called territory of the western part of America, right? Any earthquake over there is going to destroy. That's why they got a damn movie called San Andreas, where everything was just damn destroyed over there on the so-called Bay Area, right? So we back to Sirach chapter 34 and verse 5. Sirach 34, and I'm starting verse 4. It says, of an unclean thing, what can be cleansed? Right? If nothing, if it's an unclean, perverse, abominable thing, you can't say, no, it's cool now. The Lord said, don't go into tarot card reading. You say, no, it's cool. He said, don't go into soothsaying and different divinations and trying to conjure up spirits with damn Ouija boards. And you saying, look, I'm going to do it now. And the Lord said, it's okay. Verse 5, it says, I'm going to read on verse 4. And from what thing, Saki, yeah, and from that thing which is false, what truth can come. Divinations and soothsayings and dreams are vain, and a heart fancieth as a woman's heart in travail. If they be not sent from the Most High in thy visitation, set not thy heart upon them. And this is ultimately going into them dreams. But even if it's divinations, soothsaying, meaning you a damn witch. The Lord told us, suffer not a witch to live. So we're not supposed to be getting down with them things. If the Lord said don't go into it, if he never gave us charge to do that, then why are we going into it? Right? And the brother went into the mean precept, and that's going into the time period where massive earthquakes will be taking place. But chiefly these earthquakes is going into when those missiles is hitting the ground. It's not literal just earthquakes alone, but this is going into when the earth is going to shake and tremble, like I tell you in Isaiah the 24th chapter, because of the massive missiles and different nukes is going to be taking place during the time of the seventh seal. All right. So we get another precept. Let's go to Isaiah the second chapter. Right? Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 6. Isaiah 2 and 6. And it reads, Isaiah 2 and 6. Therefore thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they be replenished from the east, and are soothsayers like the Philistines. And we learn those things from them damn blood-drinking Africans, man. We learn how to conjure spirits from the Africans. We wasn't doing those things. We got those things when we came out of the land of Egypt, right? Coming out of Egypt, we kind of went back. We kind of secretly was over there, getting down with our different gods or different idols. And we doing those things today. Calling to our so-called ancestors. We don't get those things from us being Israelites. We get those things from the times when we was in the land of a hand, right? And that's what our sisters and our brothers is doing today, man. Going the hell off. It says, and they please themselves and their children of strangers, right? We get those things from the strangers. We get those things from the heathen. The Lord never gave us charge to do those things. I'm going to jump to verse 18. It says, and the idols he shall utterly abolish, and they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth, for fear of Yahweh and for the glory of his majesty, when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. All right, so when the Lord comes to destroy this earth, hey, those that was getting down with those different witchcrafts and soothsaying and whatnot, the Lord is going to allow them all to be, they're going to try to hide from fear of the Lord, man. Not only is going to be the heathen that's going to hide in the rocks, but also those of our own people, because they know this is the time of the end, and they was being wicked in the earth, and they want to try to seek refuge. They can't seek refuge in the Lord like a elect man could, because the Lord is only going to preserve the elect. Everybody else is in this earth, as we know already, is going to be destroyed. So back to Micah chapter 5 and verse 13. It says, thy graven images also will I cut off, and thy standing images out of the midst of thee. Thou shalt be no more, Slaki, thou shalt no more worship the work of thine hands, and I will pluck up thy groves out of the midst of thee. Right? These are different things that Israel from time to time was worshiping, man. Getting down with the groves in our lands, creating damn golden calves, all these different things. These the damn rosary beads we use today, the so-called cross of the Lord, they're just going the hell off, right? Our brothers damn getting down strongly and damn worshiping Allah in a so-called cobblestone. The Lord not dealing with that, right? Our true power is not in the damn cobblestone. Our true power is in the heavens. Reading on, it says, and I will execute vengeance in anger, and fury upon the heathen, such as they have not heard. And with that, right, that's the end of this breakdown, right? On bit of strong shalom, right? Continue to endure, watch for these prophecies. Right, tonight we got a so-called blood moon. A blood moon just took place, and it was also a lunar eclipse. Right, those things take place during our so-called lunar eclipse, where the moon is darkened and it's a so-called ring of fire. So those things just took place. And I'm gonna get a quick precept before I wrap up. The reason why these things are vital, and the reason why these things we gotta keep watching these signs, because the Lord told us these are the times that's gonna allow us to know when all hell is gonna break loose in this earth. So I won't be surprised if all hell were to break loose in these coming days, and something does take place between Ukraine and Russia, and so-called Israel and Iran, and America getting themselves in the midst of that, China and Taiwan. Something's going to take place, right? Somebody say, is it tonight or yesterday? Right? You can see it took place originally earlier yesterday morning, right? So at 9 a.m. I'm gonna get to, what time is this? 9 a.m. May 26th on Wednesday. But there's also over here in the Eastern Hemisphere, on the Western Hemisphere, you can also see the so-called lunar eclipse early last night, right around 10 o'clock, right? You can see those things that was visible in the sky, right? But this is Luke chapter 21 and verse 25. Luke 21 and 25, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars and upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and war and waves roaring, men's heart failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Right. So with that, I bid a strong shalom. Continue to watch for these signs and these prophecies, and let the earth tell you what's going to hell on. Right. With that, Kwame Yashar Allah, shalom.